Hi. This is Gifty from Baltimore, Canada. And I'm just going to play a little music. Actually, you know what? Forget it. Anyways, hello. Thank you for joining me. My name is Gifty from Baltimore, Canada. And I am the founder of Baltimore, Canada. Today, I have a special guest for my Baltimore feature series with Mr. Michael H. Scott. He's an author, a father, and an entrepreneur that's been helping parents understand the whole process of raising an athlete, a student athlete, and for them to go as high as they can be. So thank you for joining, and I am going to now invite Mr. Michael Scott to join us. Give me 1 second. It's been a while since I've done my live. So while this is loading, thank you for everybody that's joining. It is going to be an interactive conversation. So if you have any questions, please chime in the chat and I will be sure to answer. And here is Mr. Scott himself. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hey. Great to be on with you.
Good evening. How is it over there?
The weather's pretty good. Weather's pretty good. It's been one of those better days.
Oh, yeah? Is it one of those like
Yeah.
in season or is it just the hot and cold?
It's right in the middle of not being too hot and not being too chilly. So we right on point.
Yeah, we're at that transitions period, right? Because now summer's
Yeah.
away, fall is not fully here, so you're in that cusp of it. Um,
Yeah.
and
How's things up there?
here, same thing. We've had a couple of rains on and off, but I say we have four seasons in a day, pretty much. Like,
Okay.
of the morning is one type of weather, by the afternoon is a different weather, evening different, and night. So we're used to it now. But just preparing for the fall season, I can see the leaves changing a bit, so time is up. Yeah, which is that's life. So just a matter of adjusting to it as we go. Um,
Yeah.
yes, so I wanted to thank you for being on my feature series and wanted to have a one-on-one conversation to get your perspective, your advice, your knowledge and experience. So, I mean, you are well knowledged in the field of raising student athletes. You have, as you will go, explain yourself so those who are watching will get to know who you are a little bit more. Um, I did have a chance to read your book, which is you Don't Know What You Don't Know, The Sports Parents Guide, which is a really great book, by the way, for anyone that has not gotten yet. It's available on Amazon. It's less than 100 pages. You can read this if you're a fast reader like me, you could be done within an hour. And it's simple, straightforward tips that is tangible and understandable that any stage you are with your child, you can definitely take these great tips to make sure that you yourself as a parent and your student athlete understands certain things that you can do or be mindful of as you go through this journey. So without further ado, I would like you to introduce yourself. Who is Mr. Michael H. Scott, and what do you do? And let's see.
Okay. I'm Michael H. Scott, better known author-wise as M.H. Scott, father of Mike Scott, uh, currently free agent with the NBA. Um, but I'm CEO and founder of an organization called Parents Coach Parents Network.
Mhm.
We've been around since about 2007. And the whole thing started behind just the frustration of not knowing what to do as a parent during the time period that my son was going through the recruiting process. So as a result, I started doing my homework, and every little piece that I learned, I shared with another parent, and it just went on from there to starting to be overwhelmed by other parents. And it got to the point where I said, hey, I need to do something with this because this is a gap that's really and truly missing in the landscape of college recruiting.
Nice. And for those of us in Canada, I'm going to assume, which part of the States are you currently located?
Ah, Parents Go to Parents Network is based out of, and I say based out of the Virginia area.
Mm.
And I say that because I'm liable to be anywhere at any time. I'll pick up the show and take it on the road, and you may see me speaking somewhere in Georgia, or you may see me somewhere in Connecticut, or you may see me somewhere in the Florida area, or you may even see me out west somewhere. Never know.
Yeah.
So it's based out of Virginia,
Okay.
and that's what we're gonna call the home base for right now.
Okay. And hopefully, maybe in the future, we can see you here in Canada as well, too, for sure.
That's true,
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, you mentioned you have one son. Do you have any other children? And is it only one child that's always played sports, or all of your children have always played sports?
Uh, well, actually, I should have said I have three children. I have a total of three children, and I have two sons and a daughter, with the daughter being in the middle. Um, and they all played sports, but he was the only one that pushed it and took it the furthest.
Okay.
My youngest, which I would probably say, and Mike may be a little frustrated after he hears this. My youngest was probably the most athletic,
Okay.
uh, but for whatever reason, he was jumping back and forth between basketball and football and couldn't figure it out, couldn't make it, couldn't make a decision. So as a result, hey, he's just living life right now and enjoying life, should I say.
That's
And then my daughter, also, she ran track, very athletic as well. And she decided to take her talent to the military.
great. And you yourself, though, did you also play sports?
Just a little bit, but never at the level of what's going on now.
Oh,
I tried it, and just wasn't quite that guy.
yeah.
Because it's funny because um, when I grew up, my dad tried to push me towards baseball.
Okay.
I guess baseball was a big sport back then, and he tried to push me towards baseball, and then I realized, okay, these other guys over here playing with a bigger ball, and they just throwing it up at this round circle. So why am I out here trying to hit a little small ball with this little skinny bat? And so I slowly got away from baseball, and by the time I got into basketball, everybody else was so far ahead of me.
Oh, wow.
But I hung in there. I played, did what I had to do. Was able to maintain my own. Played a little bit in high school. Played a little bit in middle school, of course. But that's the extent of my uh, basketball career.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so I mean, for myself, and I'm sure there's many other parents going to be watching this. Not all of us, like, again, are the athletes. We see the talent in our kids, and we see that they have the skills in there. So, at what point did you notice that out of the three, the one that pushed it furthest, you decided to put your attention to making sure that they got to exactly where they wanted? Like, how did you go about that route? Because having three and everybody has different interests, we can only be split so many different ways. But from a sports parent's perspective, how did you realize, okay, this particular child has this skills, has this talent, and I'm going to help them get there?
Well, the oldest two are a year away from each other.
Okay.
And then the youngest is 7 years behind the oldest.
Oh, wow.
So there was a little time period in between where, okay, I can make some adjustments. I can really play some more focus. The oldest two, one being my daughter, the other one being Mike, um, she was gonna go out there, she was gonna run track, but that was gonna be the extent of her getting sweaty and dirty.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the extent of it. And if she thought she was going to get sweaty and dirty while she was doing that, then she wasn't going to be out there much longer. But, she enjoyed it. She had fun. I don't know if she did it because she really liked it or she did it because I encouraged her. But I seen the talent in Mike early on in his younger days. So as a result, um, I just watched him as he moved forward, and I never got to the point where I said, "Hey, he's going to make it to, to college." I didn't even say that part.
Okay.
You know, let alone say that okay, he's going to make it to the NBA one day. I'm like, okay, I guess he has the talent and skills to make it to college. So that was early in his days, but as he got older, I seen, he was doing some of the same stuff that the other guys were doing. So, hey, college was just one of the things that was going to happen for him, and he was blessed to have it.
That's good. So then once you knew that, that's where the route you're going and you're supporting and you're working together, what were some of the how was the basketball community at that time for you? Because right now it's much more bigger. There's more media. There's more attention to it. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook, I'm sure. How did you go about ensuring that, his talent was consistent and those who were coming in contact with him were also meant well because you meant well for your child? Like, how did you go about winning all of that? Anything else that could have come to derail the process that you were working with your son?
Um, During the time that he was in high school and was playing, they did have a few of them social media sites out there, such as MySpace, and Rivals had something out there, and um, I think it was Max Prep or Scouts.com or something like that was another one of those sites that was out there. But those were just sites, and you didn't know whether or not the validity of what those guys were saying was worth investigating or what. You just knew that there was some internet reporters, internet bloggers, basically, that they was writing on whoever they thought was the hot kid of the day. So that was that. But one of the things I did, and I tell this to parents all the time, and I tell parents you have to, you have to be a part of the process. You have to stay engaged with what's going on. One of the things that I would encourage you to do, and it worked out for us, was that during the time period that he was going through the recruiting process, every time he put a phone number down, he would put down my phone number.
Okay.
So anytime somebody called to inquire about him or tried to talk to him, it rang, of course, it rang my phone.
It was through you.
And so, I would answer the phone, and, first thing somebody would say, whether or not he was the coach or whether or not he was just some fly-by-night internet blogger, or whether or not he was some wannabe recruiter or just somebody trying to get his hands on him, would say, "Wow, Mike, you sound really mature." And then I say, "Yeah, I am quite mature. I'm, X amount of years old." He said, "Oh, hey, this must be Mr. Scott. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Scott?" I say, "Hey, how you doing? And who is this again?"
Yeah.
And then I'll say the name. By that time, if he's home, he'll be done poked his head, just to see who I'm talking to. And then he'll give me the nod on whether or not, folks didn't know that, but I'm going to tell this story now. Yeah. He'll give me the nod on whether or not he wants to talk to him or not. Yeah. If it was somebody he didn't want to talk to, well, guess what? He shook his head. That's all it was. So I will continue to talk to whoever that person is, and, we move on from that. I had to be the filter. I had to be the buffer, because there were some folks that had their own personal their own personal goals that they were chasing, instead of looking out for the best interests of my child. And that wasn't going to happen on my watch.
Good. That's a key point, having the filter through you, as opposed to contacting him directly. Even if he was, let's say, of age, it's easier for you to discuss the what it is that they're contacting your child for. Now, during those conversations, what were some of the concerns or the checklist that you were always looking forward to in addition to making sure that, okay, whether the nod was yay or nay, we're going to continue the conversation with you. Like, what were some of the things that you look forward to when you're having the discussions with them?
Well, um, one thing that I did, and I advise many other parents to do the same thing. Well, I guess you can't nowadays because most folks don't have home phones. You know, we had a home phone back then, and by every home phone, there was a list of questions either taped up on the wall or sitting on the table right next to that phone.
Nice.
And so at any point in time, when someone called and he answered the phone or I answered the phone, okay, I knew some of the things that I wanted to discuss with. You know, some of the things that I was concerned with, okay, what happens if he gets hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still going to honor his scholarship?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if he didn't go to a major Division I program, what happens if you go to a Division II, a Division III program? At that time, I wasn't sure which one who was going to pick him up, but I wanted to know, okay, how did you travel?
Okay.
Do you travel by bus?
Okay.
Do you travel by charter?
Okay.
Or do you travel by stagecoach? I don't know. How do you travel? Because, it all depends. Because if you're traveling by bus and you got a couple of away games, that means that you're going to be away from the campus for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're away from campus for a couple of days, is there a tutor that travels with you?
Hey, good.
Is there study hall requirements that go along with why you're out there on the road for a couple of days if you're traveling by bus or something other than a chartered plane?
Mm-hmm.
And even when they travel by chartered plane, I asked the question, okay, do they still have mandatory study hall?
Okay.
Because the first thing he tried to sell me on, yeah, Mr. Scott, we got 2 hours of mandatory study hall and da-da. I said, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, so if you're out there for 2 or 3 days, you are on the West Coast and you a school from here on the East Coast, you're out there on the West Coast, do you have mandatory study hall?
Okay.
Are you still going to hold it? And come to find out, they held mandatory study hall. I actually walked into the hotel a couple times because oftentimes when they travel, I wasn't too far behind.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I walked into the study hall and noticed that they actually had the ballroom where they had managed to get that, and all the boys were sitting in there with their devices, their laptops, and they were serious. They was focused. They put in a couple of them 8-foot tables, and they were sitting out there, and you had the academic advisor. She was in there, and she was going over what she needed to go over and helping them work through things.
Wow.
And then there was other times where she actually used her room as a study hall room. So it worked out great. But that was one of the things that I did. And one of the things also was to make sure that I kept the information right there by the phone because we had home phones. I actually had it taped up on the wall.
Oh.
And the funny part about it was, it wasn't until recently I just took that tape down thing off the wall. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I guess I just overlooked it and forgot about it, and it was still up there on the wall. So I was in the kitchen one day, and I turned and I looked at the home phone, something we don't use anymore. I looked at it and noticed that there was a piece of paper next to it taped on the wall.
Oh, wow.
And I went and I looked, and I was like, oh, these are questions. Let me take this down, throw this in the trash. I don't need this anymore. But
No.
I took it down and I shared it with a couple of other parents and made copies of it, posted in social media and all that other kind of stuff.
Nice.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we were able to work through things.
That's a good point to have a series of questions rather than thinking of it on top of your head. If you know this is what you want, have these questions in a visible place, whether it be on your phone or in an email. I guess in current state, most often probably be email back and forth before you're able to, talk in person or anything like that. So list your questions. And some of the questions that you listed, about the travel. How are they traveling? Is it by bus? Is it by personal car? Is it by, I don't know, coach type of bus or like a school bus? Mandatory study hall, I think that's a really good key point there because anybody can say it, but do they do it? And I like your tip about, you're not that far behind. That's great.
Oh no, 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 not at all, not at
That
all,
is,
not at all.
that's good.
At that point, I realized that okay, I needed to be around, not to be overshadowing,
Mm-hmm.
but to make sure that no one's going to come along and attempt to take the advantage of him or try to manipulate him to do things that wasn't quite, in that mind of his best interest, should I say.
Great.
So yeah, I had to make sure I stayed connected.
I like that. So
You know.
was there ever any situation where you went further, like you had all of the checks and balances, but when you got to a certain point, it wasn't what it was supposed to be, and how did you deal with that?
Um, no, no, no. I can't honestly say that we ever had a situation where it didn't turn out to be what it was or what it was meant to be.
Okay.
Because when I sat down and had a conversation with the coach,
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not Mike was in the room, his high school coach was in the room, or whatever, I had to have a man conversation with that coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about whether or not are you going to continue to instill the things that I'm trying to put into him, his morals, his character,
Yep.
continue to build his confidence, the whole works, are you going to continue to try to instill those things in him that I've been working on for the last 16, 17, 18 years?
Yeah.
And if he wasn't, and you're just there to see if he can help you get some W's over here in the left column, then I think we need to look at another program.
I agree.
One of the things that really caught my attention was, and I tell this story in the book, is that we were sitting in a recruiting meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Coach and the head coach came in. First thing I noticed that neither one of these gentlemen were wearing a wedding ring, but they continuously talked about being family men. Their families being involved with the team and, making sure that, that they're doing this and that they're doing that, all these great things that they claim that they're doing with the team. And the head coach even said, hey, at least once a month, my wife brings all the boys. She tells me to bring all the boys to the house and she cooks this dinner, so on and so forth. Okay, I got that, coach. Oh man, y'all on point. That's a nice family atmosphere. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, and once again, I said I didn't see either one of them wearing any wedding rings, so I wasn't doubting whether or not they was married or not. It didn't bother me until we walked over to the guidance counselor's office,
Okay.
and a couple of the guidance counselors were younger ladies, very attractive younger ladies. And I watched the head coach step directly in the path of the guidance counselor to introduce himself.
Okay.
And then after he introduced himself, he turned and looked at his assistant, and they both kind of grinned and started laughing. I was like, oh, these are family men.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with that move?
Yeah.
Okay, so that may have been, okay, you may have known her from somewhere else. I don't know. As they got ready to leave the school, because we was at the school, as they got ready to leave the school, I'm talking to the basketball coach, the high school coach, and we're walking out, and we're letting them know, hey, just let's stay in touch. Let keep us abreast of what's going on with the program. We'll keep you informed of what's going on with Mike, and so on and so forth. But there were two students standing outside, and as they walked past the students, they looked at the students and said, "How you doing?" And the young lady said, that both of them said, "We doing fine." And he said, "Y'all looking fine too."
Oh.
And I was done with that. I turned around and I looked dead at the high school coach and said, anytime them clowns call my house, they're not talking to my son.
No.
I said, if they call looking for you and want to get some information from you, direct them over to me
Yeah.
because I don't see my son going to that program because that guy is not working in the best interest of nobody but himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Needless to say, by the time my son graduated from high school, that joker had got fired.
Wow.
I don't know why. Could have been some ethical issues or whatever, but he got terminated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really good catch there, because you're not it's not prejudgment, but it's behavior and character because I
Yeah.
also heard that, when they're scouting the athlete and the whole family. So it's
Oh, yeah.
also have to scout you and your family too, right? To see, because what you're telling us, you have to deliver the same thing. You can't tell us that your family or your elite and you're acting in a different way. That's a pretty good key point. So for those who are watching, that these are some things that you have to be aware of. Doesn't mean everybody out there is bad or anything, but for Mr. Scott's, situation, if you're telling me that you're a family man, but you're picking up young girls, you're picking up another, a worker or not an employee who's all the profession, trying to keep it professional, but you're still acting like you're in the club or in the street. That I guess that doesn't work, and that's true because if they're young men and they're going to be, raise your son, what are the things that you're going to be telling him, and that could definitely could have
That's true.
kudos to you on catching that. That's a pretty good point. I wanted to
Thank you.
find out also because you do mention the book. So I'm just turning on the laptop on. You did mention the book, and how did you come up with that particular title? And I'm just putting here for as read it yet because you said you don't know what you don't know. So how do we know what we don't know?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And actually, I borrowed part of that from another book I was reading at the time,
Okay.
a book called The Memo by a brother by the name of John Hope Bryant.
Okay.
And John has a statement that he makes: "You don't know what you don't know, but oftentimes you think you know." So I was like, okay. So I wanted to use some of that,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to come back and say oftentimes you think you know. So I just stuck with, hey, you don't know what you don't know, the sports parents guide.
Right.
Because it tells the whole story. It tells the whole story.
It,
Because that's the biggest dilemma that we run into as sports parents. There's a lot of things out there that seem so confusing, seem so complicated, seem to be misleading, all these other things.
yeah.
And when we get to the point of thinking that, okay, we got a clue of what's going on, or we're close, somehow we get derailed and thrown off track, and next thing you know, we back at square one.
Yeah.
So I started just sharing, hey, what I knew,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing this information, because one parent, I know her son was getting recruited for football, and she didn't even know about, well, we called it, well, back then it was a clearinghouse, but now it's eligibility center. She didn't know about going on and registering for the eligibility center.
Wow.
And when I told her about that, she like, huh? What I gotta do that? When should he do that? I said he should have already done that.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was we started talking because she actually had to send her husband to the high school football coach's office to pick up a stack of letters that probably filled a shoebox, a stack of letters that her son had been getting.
Wow.
And the coach was holding on to him because he didn't want that kid to go to that school. He was trying to get that kid geared towards going to another school in which he had a better relationship with that coaching staff.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. Now he done missed all these opportunities. She went through some of the letters. There was some tickets in there, telling her what she need to do when they get the will call, the whole works. I'm like, oh man, you missed all these opportunities based upon these clowns, and this was a football coach, based upon these clowns holding on to information.
Because,
And, so that goes back to what I was saying. We don't know what we don't know.
yeah,
So I put that together, and I wanted to share the information in this book to say now you do have a better understanding. Not to say that you're going to know it all, you just have a better understanding.
better understand it. And you know what? I think it's great tips because um, sometimes we may feel a little bit selfish, thinking if we have some knowledge, we hold on to it. But once you share it, like I said, you're not the only one thinking it that way. So had you not told her that she needed to get her son registered or put his name in there, all these letters coming in, the process would have been probably a lot longer to get the registration, get your grades and everything like that. So kudos to you for catching these things and being so selfless in sharing these type of information, because for many parents that are whatever stages that they're at, we always think we know a lot, and right now there's a lot of info. You can Google thing. You can go YouTube, you can go Facebook, you can go websites. There's so many different sites. Everybody's an expert in so many different things. And it's often hard to know who is legit or who's telling you the truth. And as you said, one of the coaches keeping all these letters because they already had a predetermined relationship with another school somewhere. So was that really in the best interest of this athlete or in the best interest of that coach? So those are some of the things that we need to understand, that it's a community, like we're doing this together. And like you said, these questions that they're calling you about, you're finding out, are you coming to take my child to go and have yourself better, or are you coming to take my child and ourselves as a family so we can grow together and help them get to where they are? And I think that's great. Now I want to take you back a little bit in the early stages, because I do have a little some parents that are in the early stage, like we call them house league, which is like a development stage. And they're like, during the COVID they were home for a bit, now they're out. I can see them playing, and soon NBA is going to start, all these seasons are going to start, like, oh, my child can get to that big, they could be a big star. Realistically, it takes time, it takes development. What were some of the struggles that you went through in the early stages, knowing that he has a talent, he has the skills, but there wasn't anything there to help him get there? Like, what were some of the things that you had to do, take upon yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to do all I can to make sure that he develops to get to be the best athlete that he can?
Well, I was one of those parents. I didn't know.
Okay.
I didn't know. And so I had to very strategically
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that the folks that I was aligning myself with
Mm-hmm.
was going to do what they had to do or help him in the ways that they was able to help him, as long as it was in the best interest of him and not in the best interest of them. I witnessed some shenanigans one time, and I said to myself, if that was my son, I would be highly upset. And I say, and I'm going to tell you, and I don't know if I put it in the book, but I always think about it. I watched the individual um, influence a kid.
Okay.
It was a high school kid that was already in a high school, and they was having a pretty good season. And they influenced the kid to go to another school and told the young man, said, hey, we're going to put X amount of players around you, and y'all going to be the best thing in the state, and so on and so forth. And that following year, that young man ended up at that school.
Wow.
Now, and when I say some shenanigans, we were riding in a van, and I was sitting in the back seat of the van. And the person came to me and said, hey, Mr. Scott, can I get that seat? Because I need to talk to this young man. I'm like, okay, what you going to talk to him about? Why you can't sit in another seat and talk to him? I said, okay, fine, no problem. So I moved up one row. We were one of the 15 passenger vans, so I moved up one row. And he literally let that young man get in to sit in the corner. Then he got in where the young man couldn't get up and say, hey, I don't want to sit here. I don't want to talk about this no more. Let me go ahead and talk to somebody else.
Wow.
He had this young man trapped in the corner for the next 3 hours while we were riding in this 15 passenger van.
Wow.
Now, needless to say, first of all, if you've been in a 15 passenger van, that seat spacing ain't too good. And this young man at the time had to be every bit of 6'8", 6'9", with bony knees.
Wow.
His knees was all at the top of the seat because he was uncomfortable.
Wow.
But this individual, this clown, had him trapped in that back seat and was quizzing him or trying to influence him to, go to this other school.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like I wouldn't say sit well with me, but that's crazy. So with besides that shenanigans, and interest, hopefully that particular path found something that worked out for it. When it comes to the whole, coaching and the whole recruiting aspect of it, because you already mentioned all these questions and you're going on road trips, you're going back and forth. When it was time to make that decision, what were some of the things that you had to say, okay, Mike, we have these 4 options. These are our top 3. What can we do to make sure that once a decision is made, there's no turning back? Because when it gets to a certain level, you get all these commit, and it's hard to stick to 1 or 2 decisions. What were some of the criteria that you look for to say, or that parents should be aware of? It's not so much about the school with the biggest accolade or the school in the big city or whatever, but how did you pin it down to make sure that this was the best decision for you, your family, and your student, your son?
Well, I take somewhat of a different approach from most.
Okay.
The decision was his, and I stick with that.
Okay.
Because during the time period that his recruiting became hot and heavy, and folks was blowing up the phone, and they were making sure that they was in the gym seeing him at least a couple times a week, the whole works.
Mm-hmm.
I let him know. I said, hey, son, the decision is yours. Whatever decision you make, I may not agree with it, but I'm still going to support you. Because at the end of the day, he has to make that ride. He has to walk that walk. Now, I'm going to be there as dad to support him,
mm-hmm.
and do everything I can do to make sure that the transition is as smooth as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it may not have been my choice. But it wasn't my choice in the first place. It's his choice because it's his career, his life,
yep.
his venture that he's starting on.
Yeah.
I actually had altogether different school in mind when he decided that he was going to the University of Virginia.
Wow.
I had talked with another coach. I had connected with another coach. And I was like, okay, man, all right. Well, if he goes here, hey, I got a good relationship with this coach. I know he's going to continue to instill the things that I've been working on for the last 18 years. And this thing's going to work out just great.
Mm-hmm.
But then he came to me and said, Dad, I think I want to go to UVA.
Wow.
So I paused for a second, as I do. And I said, okay, son, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you do. I'm going to be there to back you, support you, ride with you, the whole works.
Wow.
Because it's not my decision.
That's honorable.
So that's what we did as far as he's concerned, and his decision making.
Okay.
I may not agree with it, but that's your decision. Because I didn't want to say, no, son, you're going to this school right here.
Mm-hmm.
Then he get there and don't like it.
Yeah.
Now it's all my fault.
Yeah.
So now you got to walk around and look at that long face for 99 years in a day because you always have that what if factor.
Yes.
because you done sent him somewhere else that he didn't want to be in the first place. So he didn't perform at his top level.
Mm.
He didn't, he didn't connect with the folks the way that he should have. And as a result, he didn't like it the whole time he was there. So now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Egg in your face.
Yes.
So I had to make sure that, okay, he went to where he wanted to go. I supported him, made sure he stayed focused on his desires and his dreams, and go from there.
Oh my gosh, that's also a good tip because at the end of the day, I always say it's them that's on the court, them that's doing the conditioning. It's that all I am is on the sideline, and we're just cheering and trying to support them as much as we can. But I did wanted to ask you something with regards to parenting from the sideline or the court side, and I think you mentioned something about it in your book where during games, myself, I'm a pretty loud person. So after reading the book, I've kind of reflected, I don't have to be consistently yelling, screaming, and making calls or telling them where to go because that's the coach's job. I think you mentioned something about how you just watch the game. You just watch and you don't say anything until he brings up the conversation. So what's the mindset of that in terms of, for any parents? Because sometimes the minute the game's done, we're going home and, we want to start talking about it, whether it's good or bad. Like, you can't help it. But I think you had a different approach to that. Can you talk about that and say, also different things that we can think of to make sure that we're on that journey without having to sort of crush their soul or pump up themselves too much, depending on how the games go?
Yes, yes, yes. That is a vital part of connecting with your child.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you wait until that child gets in the car, then all of a sudden you want to go play by play, minute by minute, quarter by quarter, and you recalling things that happened in the game that the child just, it happened, and then they kept on moving from it, and you still trying to ask them why did it happen like that? Why you let him get behind you? He scored on that, and okay, why?
Yeah.
Allow them to bring up the conversation.
Okay.
And if they don't bring up the conversation, then guess what? You won't have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to force it out of them and they don't want to talk about it, you're going to get that little bit of rejection. You're going to get that resentment. You're going to get that apprehensiveness. And you're not going to get the full openness and full picture, full honesty of what they experienced at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you sit back, enjoy the ride, go home. Hey, you can even throw it in there. Hey, man, I know they ain't go too good. Hey, let's go ahead and make this stop at Dairy Queen. Let's grab us some shakes, man, and roll on in, watch us some movies when we get home or whatever.
Yeah.
Or whatever they like doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they may bring up that conversation. If they don't bring up that conversation, please don't try to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And you mentioned something about the sideline coaching.
Yes.
Parent, we have gotten an ugly name based on sideline coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Because we over there yelling everything under the sun.
Yep.
And saying as if the coach don't know what he or she is doing. So as a result, and coaches, I'm not trying to be your friend on this. I'm just letting you know. But we are over there trying to do the sideline coaching. I caught myself doing that years ago when I actually stopped coaching him myself.
Okay.
And now I was able to gauge his presence on the on the court just by looking at his face. Is he into the game? Is he having fun out there? Does he feel comfortable out there?
Mm-hmm.
I watched him from his first game that I seen him play on the varsity level all the way through to his last game he played on the varsity level.
Wow.
The first game, I can actually read every expression on his face because he was nervous. He was at the point of, man, I'm out here for my first varsity game, which wasn't until basically the end of his sophomore year. He played 2 games at the end of his sophomore year. Unlike most athletes started playing way in the freshman year and the sophomore year, junior year, senior year. He played 2 games at the end of the sophomore year, then he played his junior and senior year. But I watched his face, and he was nervous.
Okay.
And when we got in the car, he said, "Man, you know, we lost that one." I said, "Okay, what's the problem?"
Yeah.
He said, "We lost." I said, "I understand that, son." I said, "But you got to remember, that young man that y'all was playing against is the number 5 guard in the country,
Mm-hmm.
number 1 guard in the state.
Mm-hmm.
He had 34 points. You had 27 points. So you're a sophomore. He's a senior. Who won that game?"
Good point.
He said, "I ain't think of it like that." I said, "Yeah, you're a sophomore. He's a senior.
Mm-hmm.
He had 34. You had 27. Who won that game? If both of y'all were seniors, who you think would have outscored who?"
Yeah.
I said, so ain't nothing to be ashamed of. You the top dog on your team. He's the top dog on his team. But think about it. He got a 2-year difference on you.
Ahead. Yeah.
Maybe even bigger. If he wasn't one of those guys that was reclassed or stayed back or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so you did your thing. But he opened up that conversation. He started that conversation.
Okay. So you are
And I just went from there.
start the conversation. You don't automatically start off like right after what happened, what was this, blah blah blah. Like just let it be. Let it just enjoy the ride. Allow them to assess whatever the turnout of the game is, and then let them start the conversation.
I've seen parents let the kids come out the locker room and they already on the conversation.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let the kids marinate in their own feelings for a second.
Yeah.
If they want to talk about it, they talk about it. If they don't want to talk about it, hey, let it be. That'd be all right.
Yep. Like some
It'll heal by the time they graduate.
call everything but what the coach calls. So yeah, we're yelling from the sideline saying everything but what the coach says. And then QM07 says valuable information. So yes, definitely these are great tips because we do get caught up in it, to be honest. Especially if the game is high intensity, and everybody's cheering and yelling and whatever the outcome is, it is hard to step back and not say anything. But you're
I don't even get caught up in his professional game.
okay.
Folks may think that something's wrong with me when I'm sitting there. I've told him years ago, you come down, you dunk the ball, everybody jumping up, screaming, shouting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there like, okay, that was 2 points.
Okay.
And I know that's something that you can do.
Okay.
So it's not anything spectacular about it. What has always puzzled me about watching folks play, and I just seen a young man that he played with chimed in and say, "Hey, Mr. Mike, hello there, Mr. Jones, Jay Jones." But watching athletes playing, you tell me what you notice about this here. Your team is down by 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay. Let's say your team is down by 15 points. It's going into halftime.
Yeah.
Somebody on your team hits a 3-pointer at the buzzer going into halftime.
Mm-hmm.
The whole gym will erupt.
Yep.
But the only thing, you're now down by 12 points. So why you erupted? What's going on?
Yeah.
You're still down by 12 points. You're still down by double digits. So why is the gym going crazy? Something like that will trend on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody hitting a 3-pointer at the buzzer,
Yeah.
even if it could be down by 25. If you hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer going into the half or at the end of the quarter,
Yeah.
everybody's talking about
Makes
it.
the highlights. Yeah. Yeah.
But why? Why?
I don't know. I think it's just human nature, I guess.
No, that's false. That's false. That's false. That's not human nature. That's false. Cause think about it this way. Human nature. Somebody dunked the ball. Everybody's Oh, jumping out of their seat,
Yep.
right? That's 2 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
You ain't jump out of your seat when he made that layup.
True. True.
He could have did a baseline move, reversed it, and finished with the opposite hand off the wrong foot.
Mm-hmm.
But to most fans, that was a layup.
Yeah.
That was a spectacular move.
Yeah.
He did it off the wrong foot, opposite hand, plus he pushed it baseline.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. Okay.
But you know, we look at those things that the media wants us to applaud and celebrate and everything else as the big deal, because they'll show a dunk over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
But you're still down by 30 points.
True.
You
True.
know that's when I got to the point where I said, son, why you thumping your chest after you dunk the ball? Oh, because I'm hyping the crowd. I said, okay, all right, let the crowd hype you. You don't have to hype the crowd.
Yeah.
I said, how many times you done dunked the ball before? A lot of times. Okay, so that should be everyday thing.
Okay.
Look at the superstars. They dunk the ball. You see them thumping their chest and doing all that craziness, other than Joel Embiid? Nope.
Yeah.
Notice when LeBron dunked the ball. He ain't trying to get no fan. Where he going? He going back down the other end to play some defense.
Yeah.
You know?
Stay in the game.
Yep. Stay in the game. Stay focused. Especially if you got some points to catch up on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a baseball player hit it out the park. You see him doing cartwheels and all that kind of stuff? Nah, he gonna run those bases. And first he gonna take off because he ain't even sure it's going out the park.
True.
But once he realizes it's going out the park, then he'll trot around, whatever.
Then they'll.
But before that, he ready to get it. He ready to get it.
Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna take that as a good tip to be aware of. You know, celebrate while you can, but you know, especially if you're down. It's if it's not needed, but it, like I said, sometimes it's automatic. But for the player aspect, stay in the game, do as your best, and wait until I guess the last whistle blows or the clock runs out, whatever the case may be. But from the parent side of it, let them play, and let the coach coach.
Yeah.
Because that is what we're bringing them out there to do. I'm not the coach. I'm just out there on the sideline here trying to make the game, you know, as much fun. But like you said, be mindful of it, and not everything requires all of, you know, the highlights that we get in the evening. So those are really good information to be aware of. I'm going to try. I'm not going to, you know, say I will, but I'm going to try. Just stay on there and let the game be, and
Now,
see how that goes.
now could I add one other thing?
Yep.
You know, even all the way up until his college career, I can't say I've actually been able to do it too much while he was playing professionally, but during his college career,
Mm-hmm.
I would talk to him while he was on the court.
Okay.
I would talk to him.
How?
I wouldn't yell, you know, play defense, or no, slide over, or take that shot. No, I wouldn't do all that. I would talk to him while he's on the court. I would be an extra set of eyes for him while he was on the court.
Okay.
I would talk at a probably lower than what I'm talking now. I think I'm talking pretty loud right now. But I would talk to him on the court. It's like, hey, number 5 is going baseline. He's behind you, over in the corner. And he'll glance over, look, see where he's at, and now he knows.
Okay.
You know, be aware there's somebody baseline, because he may think that only person that's back there is the man that he's right in front, you know, that he's right behind, that he's guarding, not realizing that somebody done slipped around, somebody back there behind him, you know. Or I would look at the face of his opponent and say, oh, he's scared of you.
Mm-hmm.
He's scared of you. He's hesitant to dribble the ball. You got that steal. And he would go ahead and do it.
Okay.
You know, that's just little things that you can see an opponent and see whether or not he has the confidence to really play against your child.
Right.
And especially if your child's having a good game. Oh, that person may be a little shook.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, that's where you let them know, all right, watch out, watch your back. Watch your back. You got two back there. You got two back there. And I think they caught me one time while he was playing in college. And I was standing in the aisleway at the top of the stands inside the arena. And he was getting ready to shoot a free throw. And I think he was shooting three. And I seen the first one ding off the front of the rim. So when the ball dings off the front of the rim,
Mm-hmm.
and you standing directly in front of it, that means your elevation's too low.
Okay.
You didn't put enough arc in that ball to have it drop right over the front of the rim. That's why it hits right there at the front of the rim. So I would just say little simple things like, okay, take it up a little bit. And I say about that low. He take it up, it drops.
Wow.
I hold it right there. He hit the second one. And just little things like that. As I'm walking down the aisle, going back to my seat, I see him shooting them free throws. Everybody else is quiet, or they got the spirit fingers going on and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I just look and see. I say, all right, you know what you did. Take it up a little bit. And everybody like, what's he talking about? And it drops.
Wow.
Hold it right there. You got a good spot. Hold it. Follow through. All right, you're done. That's a wrap. Let's go. And that's all.
That's it.
It wouldn't be, trying to coach or well, I guess I am coaching at that point, but it would just simply be tips that just to put his mind back to what he can do
Okay.
and should do,
Okay.
Because his mind may be somewhere else at the time.
Yeah.
He may have jammed his finger, may be on that little bit of pain in his finger.
Yeah.
Or he may have rushed the shot,
Okay.
Hey, it's a regular routine.
Wow.
If you wrap it around your waist a couple times and flip it from hand to hand and spin it on your head, hit that routine because that's what you're going to do every time you go to the line.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you are still helping, but you're not over exaggerating, I guess, what I do sometimes, where you're box out, do this, all that. But there's a way, especially at the professional or even at the college or high school level, to still guide and support them without overbearing or overtaking over what coaches are already doing or what the plays are. So I think that's good. There's some comments or saying coming and saying that they're loving all the information shared. Thank you so much. And as parents, coach your kids to be great people, which is awesome. And that's so true. Let them play and enjoy, which I agree. For me personally, I enjoy it. Even on the opposite side, if there's a good game that happens or a good, play that happens from another player, as long as we're all enjoying that particular game, I'm all for it, without having to, I guess, take over, because like I said, the coaches know what they're doing, so we give them that respect. With that being said, I wanted to get at least 5. If, even less, that's fine, or fine. That we as parents can be thinking about when we get approached by a coach. I know you say you had a list of questions, which you now threw it away. Give us some of those 5 questions or certain things that we can be, keep in mind of, whether a coach, a team, or anybody approaches your child, regardless of what stage it is, that can help you sort of hone it back to what your goal is together with your child. What would be the 5 things that you think we can, top 5 things that we should be thinking of or ask?
Well, just a couple quick things is oftentimes if it's a recruiter, if it's just somebody calling themselves a scout, we really don't have a whole lot of conversation because you're not a decision maker. So I'm sorry, we don't have a whole lot of conversation. Only people that's really making decisions or influence a decision is the associate head coach and the head coach.
Okay.
So figure out what the position of this person is and whether or not they really have any influence on, the end result. That's one thing.
Okay.
The second thing, I always want to know what's the study hall situation. Do you do a study hall? As I talked about earlier, do you do bed checks? Hey, what time the boys have to be in? Okay. If because we overlook that. and you don't want your kid hanging out all night and then knowing that he got a full game of class, a full schedule of classes the next day.
Mhm.
On top of that, may have a game later on that evening. Nah,
Yep.
what time are they required to be in? If you're on the road, what time are they required to be in?
Yep.
What's your policy on when you're on the road? Do you make them go out together, or do they go out individually?
Oh,
And then I also ask questions about whether or not if your child's hurt. If my child gets hurt, does he automatically, if he's hurt and can't finish out that season, does he lose his scholarship?
good point.
Because I know that you're looking for the next prettiest thing coming along. So what's the chance of him hanging in there if he's hurt,
Mhm.
and does he lose that scholarship?
Wow. These are good points. I'm definitely going to recap it for everyone because it is good to understand. And we do have to ask some of these questions to get the conversation going, whether they're just in development or whether in high school, whether in college or pro, whatever the level is. We definitely have to make sure that we get these particular questions answered. There's another question said, do they get money to eat on the road or eat as a team? Good point, because do you have to put money in their bank account, or is it already covered as part of the travel team that meal is part of it? And what type of meals are they going to be eating? Is it McDonald's, or is it going to be Subway, or is it going to be catered?
That's right.
These are
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
But we as parents cannot be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be.
Yeah.
We can't be. You think about the situation with a young man, Kevin Ware, a couple of years ago. We was watching TV and a bone popped out of his leg on national television.
Yeah. Wow.
His parents was at home watching the game just like us.
Wow.
They had to put something together, and his church, his parents' church, had to put something together to get them out there right away. So we got to be able to ask the hard question, because our sons and daughters is the lifeblood of these institutions, and we can't be afraid to ask those hard questions.
Yep. That's true. And I think once you ask, and I guess based on how the response comes, if they have the best interest for you and your child,
That's right.
becomes a relationship that we're building together. Oh my gosh, Mr. Scott, these are great, great tips. Thank you so, so, so much. I also want to thank everybody that has been joining, and also, with the conversations and the advices or the comment that's been going on through the chat line. Just to recap, my name is Gifty. I'm the founder of Baller Mom, and I've had here Mr. Scott, MH Scott, who is an author and a father and a parent that has been helping parents understand the sports world of being a sports athlete or a sports parent. He has a book which is called You Don't Know What You Don't Know, The Sports Parent's Guide. It's available on Amazon. It's a short read, but it's very detailed, very self-guided, and understanding from his experience in raising his son, Mike Scott, who end up in the NBA. And so taking from somebody who's gone through the route and getting their experience and their knowledge is very helpful. And that's the whole purpose of the Baller Mom feature series. Once I post this, if you have any questions, I will tag Mr. Scott. You can reach out to him, Coaching Parent Network. Their home base is in Virginia, but he is travel, and plus right now everything is virtual, so he's also accessible virtually anywhere. You do have your Sunday morning radio shows as well too that we can tune in anytime to listen to. We always have great guests there and also great advice. So with that being said, I wanted to give you the last word and tell us what's next, where we can find you, or anything else that you need from the Baller Mom community to support you.
Hey, parents, we have to be advocates. We have to be our child's biggest advocate. We have to be what we like to refer to here at the Parents Coach Parents Network, your child's very first agent in the college recruiting process and in the sports industry overall. We have to be that voice that they cannot speak for themselves. One of the things that I'm doing, and Baller Mom is included, and a few other organizations are included, and we got to get together and start pushing these legislators, because there's some things that's going on right now in the college landscape, college sports landscape, that they need to hear the voices of the parents. So I'm hoping I'm having everybody that's on here with me to join me, not join me, but join Ball and Mom, join any other organization or platform that's out there, excuse me, any other platform that's out there that's doing what's in the best interest of our children. Thank you for inviting me this evening.
No, thank you. Thank you so, so much. I'll let you have the rest of your evening back. And again, if anybody have any questions, you can email or DM me at ballroomcanada@gmail.com, and we can keep the conversation going. So thank you, and I'll end it here. Have a good night, sir. Thank you.
All right.